I want to go across to Geert Wilders first. Can you tell us about the kind of threats that you've been receiving? You're in Amsterdam, so I'm curious why you decided to wade into this controversy and come out and speak out in favor of Nupur Sharma?
Well, I believe Nupur Sharma really only spoke the truth about Mohammed. And I believe it's really unacceptable if only for speaking the truth she receives death threats, that India is being threatened by many Islamic and Arab nations to apologize or even have embargoes against their products. This is really ridiculous, especially if you take into account that those countries that are demanding actions from India are the biggest hypocrites themselves. You know, if you see how most of the Arab and Islamic nations, how they treat their own minorities, they have the worst track record of the world when it comes to human rights. You know, whether you're a woman or a journalist or a Jew or a Christian or a Hindu or a non-believer, you have the worst track and worst time if you are in one of the Arab nations. So I think we should defend her for being heroic and speaking the truth and not give in to the Islamic intolerance. We should criticize them for their track record when it comes to human rights and not criticize our own.
Can you give our viewers a sense of the kind of threats that you've been receiving? Where specifically have they been seeming to come from, and what kind of threats have you received?
Well, in the last few days, death threats from many countries, Pakistan, India, other Islamic nations, for speaking up and defending Nupur Sharma. But then again, I lost my personal freedom 17 years ago when I made a documentary about the Quran, the Quranic verses. I got at that time, 17 years ago, fatwas from the Qaeda, from the Pakistani Taliban, and from other organizations. So I left my house 17 years ago with my wife, and I never returned. I lived in safe houses from the government, in army barracks, in prison cells, just to stay safe. So I know what I'm talking about, and I know what Nupur Sharma most probably could face. Her life will never be the same, and we should rally around such person. We should defend them, not apologize for them, but defend them and stand behind her. And that's what I don't know her. I'm from far away Kingdom of the Netherlands. I'm the opposition leader in the Dutch Parliament. But I defend her because she did nothing wrong.
You're in politics yourself. We've seen a big backlash on these comments made by Nupur Sharma and a guy called Naveen Jindal across the Islamic world against the Indian government. What are you making about the kind of backlash that India seems to be receiving globally?
Well, I would say look at yourself. Look in the mirror before you decide what you think about India or any other country. You know, the Organization of Islamic Conference, the OIC, they have some declaration about human rights. It's called the Cairo Declaration. And all those nations that are also attacking India today, they put Sharia law above democracy and human rights. And as I said, if you are a minority in those countries, you are persecuted. You are taken to jail. You lose your freedom. They are the most intolerant countries with the most worst track record when it comes to human rights. So we should not let us lecture us by them. India is a sovereign nation. The only one in India who can decide whether people were wrong or not to speak are the Indian courts. The Indian courts are responsible for that, not a mob or any other nation who are criticizing India. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for your values. You are Holland, the Netherlands, India. You are true democracies. Don't let yourself be lectured by intolerant Islamic nations who are the worst when it comes to human rights themselves.
Geert Wilders, for joining us from Amsterdam this evening. Thank you very much. Much appreciate your comments and your thoughts.